Christopher Moonlight here. Let's get to work. What are we doing today? Bit of compositing, bit of creature work. We're doing... Okay, so first of all, let me talk about this guy here. This creature. He's kind of... she is kind of Gorgon-esque. But I want to just be clear that Stranger Things ripped me off. No, just kidding. They didn't rip me off. But I created this character before Stranger Things was even announced. Created, meaning I built this practical effects puppet. I had already written it into the script. Because Stranger Things takes its cue from the author H.P. Lovecraft, and The Quantum Terror takes its cues from the author H.P. Lovecraft, and there's been zillions of designs around H.P. Lovecraft throughout the years. You're going to get some similarities. So I actually called this creature the Woman, and it is similar to the Gorgon. So what we have today is we've got these characters here, and they are supposed to be... I won't kind of get into why they're acting this way, but they're smiling creepily, and then we're going to have this creature drop down in front of them, like it's the point of view of the person watching the two women, and then this creature drops down, but actually right now the creature looks like it's moving in reverse. The reason is we want it to drop down, so we're going to reverse the footage, but it was easier to kind of pull the creature up, because if we just dropped it down, it would swing around and not land where we want it to land. So what we did was we positioned it where we want the final kind of moment to be, and then we pulled it back up. So we know ahead of time that when we reverse the footage, that's going to make the creature land where we are. You may see that in, I don't know, there was some, I think it might have been Mission Impossible. There was a fight where somebody was trying to stab Tom Cruise in the face, and the knife came like right up to his eye, and Tom Cruise blocked it, and it was right there. So probably that was a CGI shot. Everything's going CGI these days, but I thought about, well, what if I wanted to do that shot practically? Well, I would have Tom Cruise, I'd say, hey, Tom, here's what we're going to do, Tom, because we're buddies, because we're friends. You gotta trust me on this. So I would have the actor trying to stab him place the knife very carefully close to Tom Cruise's eyes, and Tom Cruise act like he's blocking it. And then I would have the actor do the motion in reverse. I'd have him pull it away, kind of grit his teeth like he's trying to stab, shoot that, and then reverse the footage so it looks like he's going to stab in, and that's getting right close to Tom Cruise's eye. So Tom is safe. Tom is happy that I'm not trying to stab him in the eye. Tom loves me. Tom writes me a big check. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah. Anyway, so the woman lands into place, but she comes dropping down. So I have 4 takes of this. There were actually more takes here, but I wanted to pick the one live on cam that worked the best. And I think it's that last one. I like that last one the best. So let's just go ahead and get rid of these others. Now, okay, so if the character is going to drop down in front of them, then we need to place this footage above them, like that, but we can't see them. So we are going to do some key work. I used Ultra Key before. If you haven't joined me for my other live streams, the reason I'm using Ultra Key and not Key Light is this is footage from a 7D camera. It's very compressed, and you get a lot of artifacts when you key from compressed footage. Excuse me. In Key Light. So Ultra Key is much better at handling compressed footage overall. it's not as powerful a keying software as Keylight is. If you're working in higher, like 4K footage or raw footage, then Keylight's your keying software. But UltraKey is going to do us a favor here. So first things first, let's reverse this. So we're going to go into speed duration here, and then reverse speed. There you go. Save often. Okay. I should also mute this footage. Let's turn it down. So it drops down in front and holds its position. Now, this is by no means going to be the finished shot. There's going to be a lot of color correcting. And also, we're going to, once we've keyed this and rendered it out, we're going to use some other After Effects stuff to kind of make this come to life a bit more. But let's drag this over here so we're working clean. So, effects, video effects, keying, UltraKey. Let's drag it into the footage here. Sampler, and let's get a good mid green. It's a bit light here and it's a bit dark over here, so let's get, okay, not bad to start. Alright, let's go into alpha channel so we can take a look at what's going on. So the white is your footage, the rest is the key. Matte generator, let's see. Just got to kind of mess with this stuff here. Pedestal, that's a lot of the background. Now you see as we drag it down we're losing some stuff, so let's see what our tolerance does. Not much. I'm still getting used to UltraKey. I'm a fan. But it's obviously has its limitations, and it doesn't quite work the same as Keylight. That's spill suppressor, so will contrast help us at all? It might. I don't want to lose too much detail, but then again, we're working with very dark compositions. Alright, that doesn't look too bad. If we zoom in though, let's look at this. This really horrendous green edge here. And there's a lot of green spill around there. This is very jagged. I want to soften this up. That's a lot of softening, but it should be okay. Still looks pretty good. Softening helps. So let's go into spill suppressors. Or spill suppression. I don't see it making too much of a difference. Desaturation. Okay. So what are we losing here? We're losing a lot of detail. Let's see how it looks over the other footage. Oops. Turn it back on. dropping in. Kind of cool. So, we got this creature dropping in, and that looks great.
3, 2, 1, turn.
Should turn the audience or the audio down on that too.
And that reverses faster. 3, find your marks.
Okay. So we have 2 bits of footage here. Now I want to key out them. We're going to also use the spill suppressor on that. Or not the spill suppressor, the ultra key. Not bad. Let's see. Ooh, a lot of noise. Again, we'll go into alpha channel. Ooh, look at that. Maybe you want to reset that. So we pick from that green. Maybe a slightly darker green will help us out. A little bit. Let's see what's going on here. So let's start with pedestal. Shadow. We're getting a lot of noise on the ground there. And there's a way to fix that. Mainly I want to worry about these two. Getting their key just right. So I'm going to go ahead and reset this, because we have to find the right place to key from. Maybe that's a darker green. Doesn't look like a darker green to me. Let's reset it. Maybe it's a lighter green. Maybe it's a mid-green after all. Seems like it is. I'm curious why I'm seeing that 0 on her shirt. Ultra Key seems to be interpreting it as a green. Bringing the contrast up seems to help. See if messing with the spill helps. Whoa. Yeah. It's kind of neat. we go. So transparency seems to have helped. Let's see how it looks. Oops. We've got a lot of edges, you can see under her arm here. So it's got to be a more efficient way to arrange this. Looking at you, Adobe. Let's see. Oh. Let's go into matte cleanup. We don't want to choke it too much, because you see, if we choke it, you can see the edges of Kristen and Paula. We're shrinking them down, making them skinnier. Let's just choke it a little bit, and then let's soften it. See what it looks like up close. There's a pretty hard edge there. Also, when you soften it, it shrinks it down too. Okay. So you can still see there's a lot of noise around here. We're not going to worry about that right now, because we can crop and get this back without all that noise. So that creature comes in and drops down in front of them. So let's render these out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create separate composition to drop them into. And instead of going crazy trying to figure out what that is, I'm just going to just drop a piece of footage that matches the composition and then delete it out. Okay, so let's copy this, paste it into here. Okay. Okay, so we're going to export out the media, and the first thing I always do is figure out which folder I'm exporting it to, because I'll go through all the settings and then export it to some random place because I wasn't paying attention to where I was. Let's see, scene 40. Okay, we're going to call this the woman. Let's call it the other woman. Other woman ultra key. So I know this isn't the final ultra key one. Save. Okay, so some important things here. I'm going to save it as QuickTime animation. Animation is a lossless format. Make sure that I'm saving in HD. Okay, progressive. Very important also, square pixels. Square pixels for me, you know, it depends on the footage, but when I'm shooting with my 7D DSLR. 8 BPC plus alpha. This is very important. You want the alpha channel, or else you're just going to have a piece of footage with a black background that you can't do anything with. Oh dear. No, we can't have that. And then of course, let's get the best quality out of it. Storage is cheap. Always work in the best quality possible at all times until your final render. But I don't want to compress already compressed footage any more than it's already compressed. So, all right, we're ready. We named it. Let's export it. Let's do the same with the other bit of footage. Copy this. Okay, so we're gonna export this twice. This little clip, because we need a clean clip of the exact same length that we can get rid of all this noisy area. I just want the floor. All this other stuff we're gonna crop out. So again, export. Probably this is going to the same folder. Yep, okay. Make sure all my settings are as they need to be. Square pixels, yep, plus alpha. Wait a few seconds. So, how are you? Well, we're waiting for it to render. Come on, you got 15 seconds to tell me how you're doing. Come on, come on, come on. Alright. Fortunately, I've got a fast rendering computer. You know, render times. Alright, so now we're going to turn off Ultra Key and we're going to render it clean so we don't have any. I want this floor, I want their feet in an area that's not going to be noisy. So let's do that again. All this rendering. Gotta wait for it to render. Anybody know any good jokes? I'm on the spot. You know, it's like I want to be entertaining while doing these things. Do interesting accents for you and impersonations. Make it entertaining. Have a different English accents. My wife says they all kind of end up sounding the same. In case you missed it yesterday, we were fighting the dark side in a evil tunnel before the Clone Wars. Alright. So, we're going to make a new composition, blah blah blah, new project. Stop that. Yes, save that work. That was good work. Okay, new composition. Yeah, look like good settings. Or not. What am I doing? I don't know. Alright, so let's drag some stuff in here. We got 3 bits of footage. Drag them in. Start a composition by just dragging it in there. Actually, let's do it from the longer bit. There we go. So we got them here. Alright, so first things first, we have this pretty good key. We're going to drop the clean one in behind it. And we're going to mask them subtract. Wait a minute. I just confused myself. Okay, so we have that masked. And then we'll mask this again. What's going on here? I'm confusing myself. Okay, so now this looks clean. Okay. Pre-compose those two. Alright, now we can get to cropping in earnest. Should have changed. Shouldn't have cropped that so tight. Let's see if we can make the most of this. Let's add a couple of points. Doesn't cost money. So they're actually standing on some floor. We don't have to spend quite as much time on set extension. Let's see how that plays. Oops. Did we not save that as a project? Bear with me, folks. Oops, cropped a little bit of her head there. Let's go into the pre-composition really quick and there we go. You'll notice there's a difference in the floor color here as well, where we cropped in. Alright, so Take this bit of footage, drop it in. Surprise! And there we go. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, let's hide the Gorgon, I mean the other woman, for the moment. And so now we're gonna talk about what's going on here. There's a little bit of an edge here and here, so we're gonna mask those off. Oops. Make sure we have the right tool. We're going to make sure that we're using the right mask. So here we go. Let's go into subtract, get rid of that, and then adjust it a little bit. Probably no one will ever notice, but let's adjust this so it goes around that round edge of her boot. Check how it looks. Looks pretty good. Welcome to the tedious world of masking. Oh, accidentally created a shape layer. Make sure you're in your mask when you're doing it. Are you feeling the urge to drool? Because I am. Trying not to drool from the tediousness that is masking. And alright. Let's see if we can kill two birds with one stone here. Okay. Fit. Save. Alright, so it looks pretty good. Now, this floor is all stationary. Let's do a little color correction here. Again, let's go into that comp. So you might notice that there's a little bit of green spill from here where we didn't crop. So I'm just going to color correct that a little bit. Let's go into effect. Color correction. Let's see. Color. Where is it? Color balance. There we go. So green balance, mid-tone. Let's turn it down a little bit. Now we can still see an edge there. Might be the highlight green. There we go. About there. Shadow green. Let's try bringing up the red green And adding a little more green there. Let's see. So that took care of most of it. It's good enough. I'm not going to notice it once we do all the other color correction. And that's something to remember as well. There is... oh, got a message. Let's see. Let's bring this over. I'm a friend from Kristen's from high school. I do photography and a little video, so I just wanted to say hi. I'm in lurk mode getting work done, but it's neat to see how After Effects works. Oh, well, thank you very much. And I'm glad you're enjoying it. I am very much enjoyed working with Kristen. She's fantastic, really great person, very hardworking. So I'm hoping I'm doing her some justice here as well. And if you're working, in Photoshop, I should also mention that After Effects is pretty much just moving Photoshop. It's a lot of keyframes and has a lot of neat functions. I'm by no means an expert in it. I'm a filmmaker who uses it the best I can, and I'm an artist, so I have an eye for color for the most part. But because we're dealing with low budget filmmaking here, we're definitely just fudging a lot of things that otherwise, if you were to get into the realm of a professional visual effects artist, they would blow a lot of this stuff out of the water. But since we're dealing with low budget filmmaking, which I'm hoping is my audience, then a lot of this stuff should be useful. But thanks for dropping in and lurking. He's lurking back in the... Well, she... Don't know if you're he or she. Claire's pics. Claire? Alright, Claire. That'd be a girl, I think. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think the most important thing is to approach this as an artist. Use your eye first. I think it was Robert Rodriguez who said, it's much harder to teach someone to be an artist, but if you're already an artist, you can learn to be technical. So there's always a million tutorials, and there's people who are, doing this stuff live and that sort of thing. So I want to show you a really kind of fun thing that I've done in other tutorials, but we're going to go into Photoshop, speaking of Photoshop, and we're going to paint in a background for them. We're not going to do the whole thing today because there are some elements that I still need to shoot to add in, but what I want to do is I want to create save frame as. So let's go into file. Let's see. So Photoshop. Yep. That looks good. And millions of colors plus. That's very important. You'll see here RGB. There's alpha, RGB, alpha. There's RGB plus alpha. That's what you want. That's what's going to keep this space clear. Otherwise you're going to be dealing with just a black background. So everything looks good there, and let's make sure that we're saving it into the right place, because that's the thing I do the most is I go and I save it, and then I forget to tell it where to save it to, and then I have to go searching for it, or save it again and then find the other file later. So let's render that. Go back into here. Let's see. Let's find our folder, find that Photoshop file, and let's open it up. Alright, so let's unlock this layer. Yes, very nice. Alright, so what we want to do here is we want to come in and we want to create a background around them, and we want to extend this set. We're going to work in other layers, so we're going to start with some simple stuff and just get the cloning tool. In a separate layer, we're going to build this, extend this out. I always want to be careful, you know, with the cloning tool, it's very easy to go cloning stuff like this, and then you've got like two of the exact same thing. So go and try and find some areas that will give you a unique look. Oops, what did I hit there? So you don't get little duplicate marks and that sort of thing. Or you might get a duplicate mark and go and delete out the other thing. Since we shot in the garage, there were these little kind of patterns that were consistently on the floor in every shot. Now I'm going to go ahead and just clone over Kristen and Paula for this, and I'll show you why I do that in a minute. I don't have to get it too specific just at first. I'll show you why. Let's go ahead and cut them out. No! Now what's going on here? Did the alpha. Why didn't it? Oh well. Should have given me a clean background. But alright, there we go. So let's save that. I don't understand what that meant. Alright, so let's go in, find that Photoshop file, drag it in, merge layers, yeah, that's fine. We're going to drag it in here. So now we have a bit of a set extension. You can see there's a little bit of a difference here. What we can do is we can drag it over the top. That's one way we can do it. And then crop around them once again. There we go. And let's feather that mask. So there we go. Now that obviously looks terrible at the moment. But here's the fun thing. You can come in, you save that, go back into Photoshop. That Photoshop is linked. So we can go in there and say like, hey, let's crop out all that fuzzy stuff. There we go. And go back into, oops, After Effects, and there we go, it's updated. So now they're standing on an extended set. And they are standing, let's see, let's do a new solid behind them. We're going to make that just a black solid for now. Place that solid behind them. So now they're standing on this full surface with this black void behind them. And this creature comes down. Still not overly convincing. It's hardly the Upside Down. But when I'm done, I'm hoping it will be better than the Upside Down. So, yeah, let's see. What's this say? Yeah, everything in Adobe integrates, and that's a really handy thing, so you don't have to worry about redoing things and then re-rendering it and replacing it, finding how to place it back in. So everything you want, you know, is is right there. So if you want to create, even if you want to just create stand-in stuff that hasn't been done yet. So like if I want to come in and create another layer, and I know that there's going to be behind them this kind of like portal to another dimension, but that portal isn't there yet, I can come in and be like, oh look, it's a portal to another dimension, which we will then find another better portal to another dimension to fill in later. It's got weird fuzzy dead trees that are scary and look like bunnies reaching out. Everything's lagging. Don't blow my joke. Come on. It's a bunny reaching out for a carrot in another dimension. See, it's a carrot. It's got leaves on it. It's Easter soon. Anyway, that's the other dimension. And so we save that, and we go into there, and there it is, sort of. You know, you do what you can. That's interesting. Oh, of course, because we cropped it. Duh. So I'm like, oh, duh, you cropped it in the Photoshop layer. So oops, wrong button. Why is the move tool acting weird? These Photoshop updates, I tell you. There we go. Maybe I'm messing around a bit too much. But you get the idea. That should have updated. Oh, you know why it didn't update? Because I didn't save it. There you go. You got to save it for it to update. So, alright. Gate to another dimension behind them, and we'll fill that in later. But for the meantime... Alright, we got to get rid of the bunny foot. Sorry, bunny. Your scene has been written out. I was in the deleted scene. So, okay. So the next thing I want to do is I want to get Kristen and Paula looking like they're actually standing in the dark at the moment. And we'll work on making it look more real in another installment and adding some other elements. But for the most part, we're just going to say that they're in the dark. So I'm actually going to duplicate... Oops. No, wrong button. No, that was the right button. Duplicate, Control D, their layer, and we're going to come in and we're going to try some blend modes here. Try and multiply. So it looks dark, but now we can hardly see them. So we're going to kind of come in and we're going to maybe do a crop in. Ah, damn it, shape layer again. Hate that. Okay, so let's feather out this mask a bit. And we're going to mess with the position. And this sort of thing takes a lot of finessing. It's hard to do this stuff live and make it look good. Let's add, you can always come in and add more points, which I think I would like to do. And also, this tool here, if you drag it across, you can actually round those off a bit. Oops, what did I just do? Oh, let's play. So you can grab these points and drag it in. And get pretty much any shape that you want. You can also keyframe this shape, which I've covered in other stuff. Up next, bunnies from another dimension. See too, in the feathering the mask, I kind of went over her foot. That's something we'll solve later. Alright, so we have all these masks, and let's click out of them so we can see. So now it looks like they're standing in the dark a bit more. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to drag this over here. This way you can kind of just play the part of the composition that you want. So there's some basic color correction going on here. I'm going to do another interesting thing. I want to drag these two down. Oops. Let's include the background. I want them a little lower. So you get the basic idea, and we'll work on more blending them into the scene when we have the final background. So we won't be finishing this today, but I want to cover a little bit more about this guy in front here. I want to, he definitely doesn't look like he's in a dark area. We can see him very brightly. So I'm just going to do some basic color correction on him really quick. And my favorite thing to always start with is, oops, not channel, color correction, is levels here. This is kind of a histogram. If you're familiar with histograms, this kind of represents your darks over here and your lights over here and your midtones here. So if we pull this in, we're brightening it up. We're really kind of busting those highlights. If you pull this in, we're darkening him a lot. And this kind of is the space in between. So you can see you can get a lot of contrast out of bringing them together this way, or just darken them completely there. But this little kind of curve here, this is where the darks begin. So you generally don't want to drag this too far within here. But now he's instantly darker. We could bring in some highlights, but I don't really want to. I want him to be kind of dark. He's also way red. We actually chose this color because it stood out against the green and would make the keys a lot easier. We didn't want to put anything green into the character. If you want to do a character with green in them, you can, but I recommend a very solidly lit green screen, very evenly lit green screen, and a much better camera than an overcompressed DSLR like the 7D, which is what we shot with. So let's bring another effect into here, which is the color balance. And I'm going to start with, let's see, put some green into him, but I'm going to bump that red down. And red highlights as well. Or you know what? See, the opposite of red is green, or that's called a complementary color. So you can also bump in some green and then bump in some blue on top of that. Now you notice he's completely out of color sync with them, and we'll do some color correction on them as well. So let's go in with an adjustment layer above that, and we can come in again with a color correction. Start with levels. You don't have to always start with levels, but I always start with levels. Don't want to make them too dark. You can see the difference. And then again, color correction. And what you're seeing here in the color correction, the color balance, is essentially everything is made up of 3 colors. Red, yellow, blue. Those are your primary colors. Secondary colors are orange, purple, green. But you'll notice here we have red, green, and blue. In the world of television and movie, for some reason, green is a primary color. I don't know why. So anyway, let's take some red out of them, but I'm also going to pull down some green. All right. Again, this takes much more finesse. And I hate the edges around this thing. There are ways to deal with those too. But for now, we've got them, they look a little more blended in. You gotta watch out too when you're doing masks for shadowing people. You get this kind of weird, kind of hazy, undefined shape. That takes a lot of finessing as well. So we're gonna do one more thing with this character today. It's not going to be the final result, but I just want to show it to you. And that is, we're going to make this thing's face move a little bit. So let's let it drop down. We won't make its face move until it comes to about here. Let's make sure we save this. Drop these down. We're going to go into Effect. We're going to go into Distort, and we're going to go into, and there's all these neat things that we can do to distort things. You know, bulge, bend it, there's mesh warp, magnify, but I'm going to go with liquefy. Liquefy is kind of an easy thing to use. It takes up a lot of processing power though. So let's go into here, and let's go into liquefy, because we're going to do keyframes. And we want to keyframe all of these things here. So we have this, and if you've used liquefy in Photoshop, it's the same principle, except now, oops. You got to go into options. I forget you can't use the same options to expand the thing as in Photoshop. What did I do? I see what I did. So you have to use this brush size to drag it back and forth to get the size you want. So just beware of that. Okay. So we have our keyframes there. We want to drag it there, and we're gonna pull this thing out. I'm gonna be careful not to mess with the arms too much. So when it moves, it kind of quivers. Like I said, you needed a lot of processing power for this. So let's see how that moves. Let's bring this in so we're not using unnecessary render time. So this, this puppet is essentially a pull string puppet with a little bit of spring action in the head, but we want to give it a little more life in the face. So the liquefy tool is going to help us. Looks a little stretchy, so we'll have to beware. See how it looks. Looks a little overly liquefied. So that's something that I'll probably work on. That won't be the final result, but you get the idea. You get to make the face move a bit more. So I think that's a good place to stop for now. I'll come back here and create more stuff for this. I think I'm going to work a little bit more on Photoshop backgrounds and how to incorporate those into your finished green screen shots. So I think it looks alright for the moment. Looks like we accidentally warped something with the liquefy tool back here too. Check this out. This arm does this weird pinch thing over here, so I'll delete that for now, but we'll work on it. Alright, well, I want to thank everyone for joining me, all one of you. People on YouTube who come and watch this later after the fact. If you found this helpful, you have questions, leave questions in the comments. Remember, I'm on Patreon as Christopher Moonlight, and there's also a donut button. I will say donut button. A donate button for PayPal in the description. So please also consider making a donation if you can. That helps me to keep doing these tutorials. Also, keep an eye out. I'm bringing back my podcast show, The Practical People, where I interview practical effects artists. I've interviewed Neville Page. Fawn Davis is coming up, I hope. People from Odd Studio, Makeup Effects Group. Hoping to get my bosses at ADI to agree to it at some point. Alec Gilson, Tom Woodruff Jr. Who else? Man, I've interviewed Matt Winston, son of legendary Stan Winston. Some great people. I know I'm forgetting. It's Shannon Shea. I'm forgetting people. But anyway, if you enjoy practical effects, I do some really great interviews with them. I'm also bringing back my household filmmaking podcast. And look out for the Quantum Terror, which is what this is for. This is coming very soon. So I don't know, I'm forgetting to plug some stuff, I'm sure. But thanks for joining me. I'll be back soon. And yeah, get to work. Let's make some movies.